Step into the unknown with the shadow frequency and your host, Matt Wilson, as he takes you where the shadows hum.
Welcome, listeners, to episode 118 of The Shadow Frequency. I'm Juniper, your guide into the darkness, and tonight we're diving into a chilling tale that's echoed through the forest of the Pacific Northwest for a century. It's the Ape Canyon attack of 1924, a night of terror where miners faced something massive, hairy, and not quite of this world. Was it Sasquatch? Or something even stranger, lurking in the shadows of Mount St. Helens? Matt, this one's got my skin crawling already. What's got you hooked on this story?
Juniper, it's the sheer intensity of it. 5 men trapped in a cabin, bombarded by boulders from creatures they couldn't fully see. Creatures that seem to want them gone or worse. It's not just a Bigfoot story. It feels like something that reached across dimensions to confront them.
Oh, you're giving me chills already, Matt. Listeners, buckle up for a journey into the unknown. Matt, take us into the heart of Ape Canyon in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Shadow Frequency, where we peer into the veil between our world and the unexplained. Tonight, we're stepping back to July 1924, to a remote gorge near Mount St. Helens, Washington, a place now called Ape Canyon, named for one of the most harrowing encounters in paranormal history. Picture this: a group of 5 gold prospectors, Fred Beck, Hank, and 3 others, working their claim, the Vanderwhite, deep in the wilderness. These were tough, seasoned men, used to the dangers of the forest, but nothing could have prepared them for what came for them that night. For weeks, they'd noticed signs, massive footprints 19 inches long, pressed into the mud near creek beds and springs, strange thumping sounds like something beating its chest in the distance, high-pitched whistles echoing from one ridge to another, as if communicating across the canyon. These weren't the tracks of any known animal, and the men felt eyes on them, watching from the shadows. One day, Fred Beck and Hank went to fetch water from a spring. That's when they saw it, a 7-foot-tall creature covered in blackish-brown hair, peering from behind a pine tree just 80 yards away. It was massive, muscular, with broad shoulders and a human-like face. Hank, a skilled hunter, didn't hesitate. He fired 3 shots, bark flying off the tree as the creature ducked. Beck joined in, claiming he hit it 3 times, watching it stagger and tumble over a cliff into the gorge below. The men thought it was over. They were wrong. That night, as they slept in their hand-built cabin, a sturdy structure with no windows, just logs and a rock fireplace, the assault began. Out of the darkness, massive boulders crashed against the cabin walls. The ground shook as something, multiple somethings, circled them, their heavy footsteps thudding in the night. The miners woke in a panic, grabbing their rifles as rocks rained down, splintering wood. One creature, bold and terrifying, reached through a gap in the logs, grasping for an axe inside. The men fired blindly into the night, and the attacks would pause, only to resume minutes later. For 5 agonizing hours, they were under siege, trapped by what they called mountain devils, beings that seemed driven by rage, or perhaps something more sinister. Fred Beck later described these creatures as more than animals. He saw them as entities not entirely of this world, their presence heavy with an otherworldly weight. The miners survived until dawn, when the assault stopped. They crept out, finding huge footprints scattered around the cabin, a strip of wood torn from the logs, and no trace of the creature Beck swore he'd shot. They fled, leaving their equipment behind, too terrified to stay. When they reached Kelso, Washington, the story leaked to the press, sparking what became known as the Great Hairy Ape Hunt of 1924. Newspapers across Oregon and Washington ran wild with the tale, and people flocked to the area, armed and eager to hunt these mysterious beings, but nobody was ever found. No blood, no proof. Only the lingering questions: what were these creatures? Juniper, this story feels like it's ripped from a nightmare. The idea of being trapped in a cabin surrounded by these things, it's like they weren't just animals, but something that knew the miners had crossed a line. What do you think?
Matt, it's absolutely terrifying. I can't imagine the dread of hearing those boulders hit. Knowing something massive is out there watching, it's like they stepped into a realm they weren't meant to find.
Exactly. Let's take a quick break, and when we're back, we'll dig deeper into what these mountain devils might really be. Juniper, over to you.
Wow, listeners, how's your heart rate after that? The Ape Canyon attack is the kind of story that makes you question what's really out there in the wild. Are we hearing about Sasquatch or something that defies explanation? We've got more to unpack, so don't go anywhere. And if you're loving the Shadow Frequency, please like and subscribe and follow us on YouTube and TikTok, Facebook, and all major podcast directories. Oh, and we've got a website too, shadowfrequencypodcast.com. You can stream all our episodes there and read our Shadow blog. Leave us a voicemail too, telling us where you're listening from. And if you want to support the show a little bit, you can buy us a coffee on the site. Now let's open the mailbag for some listener feedback. Gotta hit this button over here.
It's time for the Shadow Frequency mailbag.
All right, we got a great email today from Teresa in Arizona, which we saved just for this episode. Here's what she wrote. Hi, Matt and Juniper. I'm a huge fan of Shadow Frequency. Your episode on the Mount St. Helens Bigfoot had me glued to my speakers. The way you dive into these stories with such creepy detail make me feel like I'm right there in the forest. She goes, I've been fascinated by Sasquatch since I was a kid, and your show brings it to life. Keep up the spooky work. Well, thanks, Teresa, for the love. We're thrilled you enjoyed our Mount St. Helens episode, and this Ape Canyon stories were right up your alley. If you want to share your thoughts, you can email us at shadowpodcast@protonmail.com. Matthew for the rest of this chilling tale.
Welcome back to the Shadow Frequency, where we're unraveling the Ape Canyon attack of 1924. We left off with 5 miners fleeing a night of terror, their cabin battered by unseen creatures they called mountain devils. But what exactly happened in that gorge? Let's dive into the paranormal heart of this mystery. Fred Beck, one of the prospectors, later wrote a book, I Fought the Ape Men of Mount St. Helens, where he doubled down on the idea that these beings weren't just flesh and blood. He described them as extradimensional entities, manifestations of something beyond our reality. Beck had psychic experiences before this event, and he believed the creatures carried a spiritual weight, like demons or beings from another plane. He noted their massive muscular frames, 7 feet or taller, with broad shoulders and narrow hips, covered in fur but eerily human-like, the way they moved fast and upright, and their relentless assault suggesting intelligence and intent, as if they were punishing the miners for killing one of their own. The paranormal angle deepens when you consider the setting. Ape Canyon, a narrow, shadowy gorge, feels like a place where the veil between worlds might thin. Some Native American legends speak of a band of renegade beings who lived like wild animals in the Cascades, described as ape-like and ferocious. Could the miners have stumbled into a sacred or forbidden territory, angering entities tied to the land? The whistles, the chest thumping, the coordinated attack, it all points to something more than animals, something that knew the miners' every move. But not everyone agrees on the supernatural. William Halliday, a speleologist, offered a more grounded theory in 1983. He suggested the attack was a prank by YMCA campers from Spirit Lake, throwing light pumice stones into the canyon. The narrow walls could have distorted their voices, making them sound monstrous to the miners below. Halliday argued the miners, already spooked by the footprints and their own gunfire, might have imagined the rest. But this theory struggles against the miners' detailed accounts. Boulders, not pumice, were described, and the footprints were massive, measured at 19 inches. Plus, why would campers risk their lives against armed prospectors? For me, the paranormal explanation resonates more. The miners were seasoned woodsmen, not prone to panic. They abandoned a lucrative claim, something profound enough to scare them off forever. Leroy Smith, one of the miners, told his daughter he never wanted to face those creatures again. Whatever they encountered felt personal, vengeful, and not entirely of this world. Juniper, this story sticks with you. The idea of these beings as extradimensional feels so much creepier than just Bigfoot. What's your take?
Matt, I'm leaning into the spooky side. The thought of entities watching from another dimension gives me goosebumps. I don't know if I'd ever hike Ape Canyon after this.
Right. Let's wrap this up, Juniper. Take us home.
That's all for episode 118 of the Shadow Frequency. The Ape Canyon attack of 1924 leaves us questioning, were those miners hummed by Sasquatch, or did they brush against something far stranger, lurking just beyond our reality? Thanks for joining us on this eerie journey. Visit our website, shadowfrequencypodcast.com. You can catch up on our episodes and read our Shadow blog or leave a voicemail there. We'd love to hear from you, and where you're listening from, follow us on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook, and on the major podcast platforms. And if you enjoyed the show, you could buy us a coffee to keep the mysteries coming. Until next time, stay curious and keep listening for the shadows. Good night, shadow seekers.
Have a favorite episode of the Shadow Frequency? Let us know. Email us at shadowpodcast@protonmail.com and tell us which episode has kept you up at night, and you'll be entered into our drawing to win a copy of Encounters, True Stories of UFO Sightings, Alien Abductions, and Extraterrestrial Contacts. An essential read for any true believer. Deadline to enter, June 7th. Don't miss your chance to bring the unknown a little closer to home. See you in the shadows.
This episode was produced with a commitment to exploring the unexplained while grounding our discussion in documented discoveries. All interpretations are speculative and intended for entertainment purposes.